Okay. Good morning. I would like to learn today a little bit on the parsha, since it is Erev Shabbos. What I'd like to learn with you is a piece from Shir Yom Shabbos, written by Rabbi Miller, who was the head of Gateshead, the girls' school in Gateshead. So he has a piece on Parshas Masai that I would like to share with you, and it starts out like this: Chelik Godol mi Parshat Hashavua, a large portion of this week's parsha, Mukdash l'Sipur Ma'asoehem. It's discussing the 49 camps, the 49 places that the Jewish people went through when they went through the Midbar. B'meshech 40 shnot nidudeihem b'midbar. The Jews went through 49 encampments throughout their period in Midbar Sinai. The pasuk says like this: Elu ma'asei b'nei Yisrael. These are the travelings of b'nei Yisrael. Asher yotu me'eretz Mitzrayim. Letzivo, someone they left Mitzrayim in their group. Biyad Moshe v'Aaron, through the hands of Moshe and Aaron. V'yichtiv Moshe, and Moshe wrote down Motzeihem l'ma'aseihem. So I have Rabbi Hirsch here, who is translating the word to mean, and these were the journeys. Excuse me. And Moshe wrote the breakings up of the camp. Motzeihem, when they left, they're breaking up of their camp. L'ma'aseihem, for their journeys, for their moving on. Al pi Hashem, according to the word of Hashem. Ve'elu ma'aseihem l'motzeihem. And these are their journeys. They're journeying forth for their breaking up. In other words, what we're going to be discussing today is, as you see, the switch in the expression. First, Moshe wrote down Motzeihem l'ma'aseihem. And then the pasuk changes it around, and it says Ma'aseihem l'motzeihem. So that's what he's going to focus in on today. It says Madua. Why is it Haseder Hesder b'milim, the order of the words Motzeihem l'ma'aseihem? They're breaking up to their journeying. Mishtaneh b'sof pasuk. It changes at the end of the pasuk, and it says Ma'aseihem l'motzeihem. They're journeying to their breaking up. And similarly, Madua hamilim, why are the words al pi Hashem nichtavu rak acharei motzeihem l'maaseihem? And in the first part of the pasuk it says v'yichtav Moshe es motzeihem, they're breaking up l'maaseihem, for their journeying al pi Hashem. And then afterwards it says v'elu, these are maaseihem l'motzeihem, without the words al pi Hashem. So why is it that in the first part of the pasuk it says al pi Hashem, and after the second part it doesn't say that? So he says anu motzim deos shonos b'divrei Chazal. There are numerous opinions in the words of Chazal al mataras hanidudim hamamushachim b'midbar. What was the objective? What was the understanding with all of the movements of the different encampments that the Jews went through, lifnei haknisa la'eretz Yisrael, before the Jews finally came into Eretz Yisrael? He says Rashi mitzatet meha medrash. Rashi quotes the medrash as datel shel Rabbi Tanchuma amuvos al yad. He brings the mashal. It says mashal lemelech, a metaphor to a king. That the child was sickly. And needed to go far away for his refuah, for his well-being, for his convalescence. Kivin shahayu chozrin, when they came back, hischil aviv mona es hamasos. The father of the child starts enumerating the different stops along the way. Amarlo, and he tells him, Kan Yeshananu, here we slept. Kan hukarnu, here we were cold. Kan chashasesra, here your head was aching. The different issues that the child had in the different places that the child went to. Imkain, that being the metaphor, al yedei hamasos ha'aruchim, through the different camps that the Jewish people went through, nitaharu Yisrael mitumas Mitzrayim. In other words, this is a long process of cleansing the Jewish people from the tumah of Mitzrayim. Again, the metaphor being the child is sick, and the child is going through a treatment, going to these different places to bring the child back to health. So that understanding meaning that the Jewish people left Mitzrayim with a disability, a tumah of Mitzrayim, which needed to be removed, and that took the necessary 42 steps in order to bring the child back to its health. Right? The tumah of Mitzrayim, which clung to them in their golus. Haderech HaKasha, the long 40-year journey with all the 42 stops. Hoysa HaChona was a preparation. Likras HaKnisa LaEretz HaKadosha. In order to be able to come into Eretz Yisrael on a certain level of ruchnius, it was necessary to go through this cleansing process. So that is approach number one that Rashi quotes in the name of the Medrash Tanchuma. Siba Acheres, what's another understanding to why the Jews needed to go through this journey of 40 years in the Midbar? Nimtza b'Medrash Tanchuma is also found in the Medrash Tanchuma. Berosh Parshas B'Shalach, in Parshas B'Shalach. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? When the Jews first left Mitzrayim, right? They're first leaving Mitzrayim now in Parshas B'Shalach. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu said like this: Imani molichem derech pshuta, if I take the Jewish people the straight way, achshav, right now, machzikin ish b'sadeh, every person will go to their family property, ubekerem, and their vineyard, umavatlan min haTorah. Okay, something which I don't know if we're all that familiar with. So again, the Medrash is telling us, speaking in the, speaking out Hashem's plan, that if the Jewish people will immediately go straight into Eretz Yisrael, they'll inherit the land. Each person will go to their family plot. They'll get their inheritance, and they'll start working, and they'll start making a livelihood, and they won't be learning. Elani, so what will I do? HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, Molichin derech midbar, I'm going to take the Jews through the Midbar. Vayechilu es hamon, I'll sustain them with the mon. The Yishtu mei be'er, they'll drink the water from the be'er, the miraculous be'er. V'haTorah mityasheves begufen, and then the Torah will be absorbed into their beings. So we see over here, according to this Medrash, that the reason why the Jews were taken in such a long, circuitous way was to give them an opportunity to be in Kollel for 40 years. They're going to sit and learn Torah for 40 years straight, no other obligations, and then they'll be able to go into Eretz Yisrael. Because if they go straight into Eretz Yisrael, they won't be able to learn. They'll be busy with their fields. That's number two. And then, HaTorah Atzma, the Torah itself. Why is it that the Torah took us in a circuitous route? The Torah itself tells us. So I guess I'm not giving an answer right now, but in other words, if the Torah gives us an answer, so then why is it necessary to get further answers that we'd need to sit and think about? If the Torah tells me something, then why is it necessary to give me additional understandings? But the Torah tells us, V'hi b'shalach Paro es ha'am, when Paro sent out the Jewish people, V'lo nochem elokim derech eretz plishtim, Hashem did not take them on the straight path through the lands of the Philistines, go through Gaza, which is right up the coastal road, right through Gaza. Kikaravhu, even though it's close, Ki Amar Elokim, Hashem said, Pen Yinochem Ha'am, it could be that the people will have second thoughts. Nichum means to think things over. It doesn't mean per se to be comforted. It means to have second thoughts. Perhaps the people will have second thoughts. Virosim milchamav, they'll see war. Knows if the Jews are going to go straight into Eretz Yisrael and they'll have to fight all the kings that were living in Eretz Yisrael. So once they see that, V'shavu Mitzrayim, they might have second thoughts and to try to come back to Eretz Yisrael. That is reason number 3 that the Torah itself gives in order to avoid war. So L'chora, this is Rabbi Miller speaking now. Shalosh sibos lefanenu. There are 3 underlying understandings of why the Jewish people needed to be in the Midbar for 40 years. Haderach Harucha, number 1, this long road. Siyaya li Yisrael li taher. It enabled the Jewish people to cleanse themselves mitumas Mitzrayim, from the impurity of Egypt, to take Egypt out of the Jews. Right? That famous statement, right? You can take the Jew out of Egypt, but you couldn't take Egypt out of the Jew. So that took 40 years more. They physically were taken out immediately, but to take Egypt out of the Jew took 40 years to matire them from the impurity of Egypt. Sayei Alam, number 2, lidabek b'limed Torah, to become totally connected and one with Torah. And number 3, umona ba'adam miloshuv Mitzrayim birosa milchama, that if they'll go on a circuitous route, it'll be much more problematic to go back to Mitzrayim. If you're going on, Route 95 and you have a problem, you can always turn around and go right back. But if you're following ways and they're taking you on all sorts of detours and wherever you're going, and then the Waze breaks down, you're not going to be able to find your way back because it took you on all the different back routes. But if you're going straight on I-95, so then any problem, you're going straight back home. So that's the idea over here. Hashem took us circuitously so that when difficulties would come up, it'll be much more problematic to go back to Mitzrayim. So those are the 3 ideas that are brought down by Chazal in the Torah. So now it continues. Lamito shel davar. The truth of the idea is, Elim shlosha hebitim al matzavam haruchani shel Yisrael. These are 3 perspectives on the spiritual level of the Jewish people. B'tzeisim in Mitzrayim. When the Jewish people left Mitzrayim, they were on a certain level spiritually, and these are 3 perspectives of that. Hamagid miduvna, the Dubna Magid, the famous Magid of Dubna, who gives his metaphors. Masbir et hashinoi, the pasuk, he explains to us that, again, we shouldn't lose focus what we were doing. The words in the pasuk, one was matzayim l'masayim and one was masayim l'motzayim. So we want to know the change in the psukim. So the Magid of Dubna explains the change like this: from motzayim l'masayim, l'masayim l'motzayim, al yidei Moshe, giving us a metaphor. It says, Adam echad hitalman, a person became widowed. V'nosa isha shniya, and he married a second wife. V'nomi ishto harishona, his child from his first marriage, soval tachas yedei imo achogeres. The child from the first marriage was being treated very difficultly, was being ill-treated, maltreated under his stepmother. The father was looking forward for the day Shabo Beno Yitchatein, when his child will be able to be married, and to leave the house because it's not a good situation. The stepmother is not treating the child well. Pam Kasher Nosela Osakov, when the father went on a business trip, Ro Ha'av Nara Matima Lebeno. The father saw someone that he felt would be a perfect shidduch for his son. Univgashim Avia, he met with the girl's father. And they decided we're going to make a marriage. So when the father came back home, the Beiso who told his child like this: in 3 months, you're going to get married and you're going to start your new home and you're going to be leaving this house. Hayom HaMiyuchal Higia, the day reached. Ben HaMaushar, the child who's so happy. All Karkara im Aviv, he went up there. V'derech le'ira shel kala. So they went to the city of his betrothed. B'zman hanesiyah, while they were traveling, Shol haben pamim rabos, he asked numerous times, as a nahag, he asked the driver, Kama hisrachnu me'abayis, how far away are we from the house? Eze merchak kfar avarna, how far have we gone already? Gam ha'av hanirgash, the father also who's so sensitive now, Shol es hanahag li'itim krova, he also asked the driver, Mau ha'merchak shadayin noter lana, how far are we away from ad l'macha until we reach our destination? So the child's asking how far have we gone from the house? And the father who met the kala, he says, how long is it till our destination? Haben shesam lev l'shinoi shebenisuach she'eloseihem. The child who was sensitive to the different questions that were being asked, Shol esoviv, he asked his father, lepesher hadavar, why is it that I'm asking how far away from the house, and you're asking how close are we to our destination? Ha'av his beer, the father explained, Shaben yoda shu mitrachek me'amokum shabo soval. You the son, you're living off of leaving a place that you suffered under. You want to know how far away are you from that place that you had such a difficult experience. But you can't rejoice with your meeting of the bride and her family. Shows that you don't even know who they are. You never met her. You don't know the family. You just heard from me, but you don't know anything. So you're not overjoyed and overwhelmed by what's coming up because you don't know anything about it. All you know is that you're leaving a place that you suffered so much under. The Sheila had one objective. All the child wanted to know is, how far away are we from this place? But the father, on the other hand, he knows how better it's going to be, the son's future, and how lighting it's going to be. The father was looking for the simcha la'asid, for the future. He knew he couldn't wait. How much further is there? We want to get there soon. So now he ties this together. Yisrael b'doma leben hazeh, the Jewish people who are like the child. Hevinu es mashmuz hayetziyah. The Jews understood what it meant leaving Egypt. Misivlus Mitzrayim, from the slavery of Egypt, that they knew. They knew the terrible experience. They just wondered, how far away are we from there? But they didn't yet understand and appreciate what the ruchnius of Eretz Yisrael is about. So they were saying over their journeys, from where they had left. How far away are we from where we left? Right? These are our journeys to where we left. Moshe Rabbeinu, it's Moshe Levad. Moshe himself was the only one who knew. Moshe understood the kedusha of Eretz Yisrael. Raku Yoda as a tachlis hamitis shel hamasos. Moshe knew. Moshe was the only one who understood the objective of the camps. And therefore, Moshe's writing es motzeihem l'maseihem, to where we're going to. Who's sameach likras haknisa la'aretz. He is looking forward to the entering of Eretz Yisrael. Tachlis, the objective of leaving Mitzrayim. So these are the two different perspectives. Rav Tzadok HaKohen writes, Shekasha Yisrael ozvu as Mitzrayim, when the Jews left Mitzrayim, Heim hadayin lo haya nikiyim legamre mitumosa. So he said the Jewish people had not yet cleansed themselves from the impurities of Egypt. HaRambam mevayer, the Rambam explains, Sheparo misamel es hayetzer hara. Paro is the antithesis. He's the quintessence of the Yetzer hara. L'chein mosif harav Dessler. Rav Dessler adds, Kashanemer b'Torah, whenever it says in the Torah, Shacharei Nasiya shel Yomim Mispar Likras and Midbar, when they came into the desert, Rodaf Paro Acharei Yisrael, the Paro was running after the Jewish people, and it says Uparo Hikriv, Paro brought himself closer. Hakavana Shayetzer hara adayin nisa lahachshilam, is that the Yetzer hara itself was trying to attack the Jewish people. L'chein halamilim, says Vahi b'shalach Paro sent out. It says in the Mechilta, Shilua kanel levia, Paro was escorting them. Kloma heim lo hishtacharu legamri, they had not yet been completely freed from the hashpah of the Yetzer hara of Paro. Im kain nigalu mi Mitzrayim, the redemption from Egypt, umisivlosum, and their burden, the simcho, and the rejoicing of the masayim, of the travelings from where they left. Achem adayin lo mochu es rishima shel tumas Mitzrayim, but they didn't yet remove it. Ilu nichnosu le'eretz hakadosha, had they entered the kedusha of Eretz Yisrael b'madrega zu, on the level that they were on, shechol v'kodesh meshamshin, you would have their impurity and their kedusha in one. It would be a mixed breed. It would be like shatnez. Ki az lo haya b'kochem lamod b'nisoyin, they would have never been able to withstand the temptation of the physical. Haya sakona shehem yiplu b'reshet hayetzer hara, they would have fallen into the Yetzer hara. Yachlifu ikar b'tafel, and they would have taken the subordinate for the essential. Yashkio es mertzim v'onosim ba'avodas hadam, like the Medrash said, if Hashem brought them into Eretz Yisrael straight away, they would have been started doing their planting and not learning, meaning that they would have been so overwhelmed by the beauty of Eretz Yisrael, the physical beauty of Eretz Yisrael, that would have overshadowed the kedusha of Eretz Yisrael, and they wouldn't have seen that and appreciated. So they weren't ready yet to go into that. They weren't ready for that fight. Therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'derech haruch, Hashem took him on this long path. Kol kach to Eretz Canaan. Ha'yizazu haderech mituma l'tahara. It's going from Tuma of Egypt to the Tahara. Vod, and the other reason is why mipnei shehakesher hanafshi, their spiritual connection to Mitzrayim, ulahashposen, and its influence had not yet been disconnected. They could change their mind, like the Torah itself said, when they see the war, both the physical war and the spiritual war, when they're going to have to fight this Yetzer hara, and they're going to go back to Mitzrayim. They're not ready for the fight. Hakshiyim b'midbar, the difficulties in the midbar, or the pachad, or the fear, mipnei milchama asuyim, that would weaken them. V'tochen shayum adif and lagzo, they'd go back to even though the burden of Egypt, you'd much rather go back to something that you know, which is, an interesting understanding. A person would rather deal with what he knows rather than to take a burden of the midbar that you don't know. Hamasos Aruchim took that away from them also. He comes up with his final mashal over here. Yeah. Mashal Umelech Shayu B'no Chole, again, the child was sick. And they went far away to be cured. Talich hitarut, this procedure, this long journey of becoming pure. Haruchanit mashchitot Mitzrayim, from the destruction of Egypt. That's ma'asehem lemotzehem. Hushlav, it's a period. Hitalut, it's like levels. It's like going up a ladder. We have rungs of ladders. Hitalut harishon, moving up and up and up. Sur meira, first we are leaving the evil of Egypt. B'shlav zeh odem menakesh asavim shotim, just cutting down the grass. Oker markivim shlilim, you take away all the bad things from their roots. Hatzlocha betchum zeh shel avodas Hashem, tluya b'yiras shamayim. To be successful in this, you need to have yiras shamayim. But the midas hayirahi, the idea of or hamida yechida, which would give it to us, hakol b'dei shamayim, except for yiras shamayim. With this, ilmali hakadosh b'av Hashem would have left us, we would have never been able to succeed. In order to give us that ability to fight, a person needs to daven for that. We try to become tohor. With our own. Hatalich amugdar sur meira, leaving the bad. Shu has here to stay away. Maschil ben odim lehisrachik. We have to try to remove ourselves from all of the negative influences. That was Egypt, right? We stayed away from that, and that's in our own personal lives. We have to remove ourselves from all the negative influences, and then to move to the positive. Okay, he finishes up over here. Hakol b'dei shamayim chutz miyiras shamayim. Everything is in our abilities except for the awe. La'achar hasogas hayir al yidei avodaso. When a Jew accomplishes this, zoche odim la'avas, he comes to the love for Hashem. Hushalav hanoson, this is a level that Hashem gives you after you put in your effort. Totzot ma'amatzav, the result of his efforts, Nishamer Meira, to stay away from the negative, which is what the Jews did in their journeys through Egypt, to get far, far away from Egypt, to prepare to come into Eretz Yisrael. Kodesh Baruch Hu manik madrega zu, Hashem gives us that level of yiras shamayim. Avas tachlis atova, to look for the good, hashlema. Motzeyem lemaaseyim, we're leaving behind to moving to our goal. That's what we're looking for. Moshe Rabbeinu, who appreciated the greatness of Eretz Yisrael, look forward to where we're headed towards. We need to appreciate where we're headed towards. We're staying away from the negative in order to reach the level of Avas Hashem, that Be'ezrat Hashem will give us that opportunity. Okay, have a wonderful Shabbos, gentlemen.
I'll tell you know. Okay.
Any questions on this?
Yeah, Rabbi, I had one question. So you were saying how if Hashem would have put us directly into Yerushalayim after being enslaved, then we would have just been in awe of Israel and appreciated Israel like that, and we wouldn't have time to learn.
The physical beauties of Eretz Yisrael, correct. We wouldn't. Yeah.
But does that mean that when you learn, because it seems that there's two things, right? There's the learning, and then there's the actual carrying out of that whatever learning that you've done, right? So would that mean that in every learning you should be carrying out those acts no matter what, or learning for the sake of learning?
Again, when I learn, it's to put that into my daily life. There's no question. If I'm learning halachas of tefillin or davening or Shabbos or whatever it is, I need to incorporate that into my daily life.
What about learning where it would never become an actuality, right? Like
if I'm learning about korbanos, let's say. So learning about korbanos is connecting me to Hashem. That is infusing me with the kedusha. There's Torah that is just the connection, is becoming more and more connected to Hashem. And then there's Torah, which is it's a whole discussion about what you're talking about, the mayor. That there's a Torah, of practice, and that's like the Torah of a woman. A woman needs to learn Torah because she needs to know how to what to incorporate into a daily life. The mitzvah of learning Torah, and for Torah itself, that woman is not obligated in that mitzvah. Women have other obligations, but her obligation for learning Torah for Torah is not her responsibility. Her obligation of learning Torah is for her to become more understanding about what she needs to do in her life. But that man has two types of Torahs. So those are the two facets of Torah, correct?
And Rabbi, I guess lastly, the last question I would have is, if you have the option of learning one piece of Torah over the other, one that's more applicable to you, then let's say I can learn about Karbanos, or I can learn about Tefillin. Would you? Is
You certainly
one
need to,
other?
you certainly need to learn about what's applicable to you first. That's for sure.
Perfect.
No question about that. Yes. Okay.
Rabbi Sternberg,
Yeah.
I have a 2-minute word. Can I tell you? You get a smile on your face. It says
Yeah, go
Pinchas
ahead.
ben Elazar ben Aaron. It says Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron Cohen. Ben twice. So Pinchas is a kanoi. So the question is, well, who did the first kanois? How does Pinchas know to be kanoi? So Zohar says, or Fanard says, that Nadav Avihu, by bringing the korban, were the first kanoim. So Zohar says, that's why it says Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron Cohen, that when Nadav Avihu were neshama taken away, he went inside Pinchas while he was still alive. Meaning,
Right.
and when it says Pinchas ben Elazar, ben Aaron Cohen, Pinchas is the son of Elazar, but he's also the son of Aaron Cohen, because the neshama of Nadav Avihu was inside him. So his
Very
literal
nice.
son. Zohar on the north.
I know, and Elio has 4 neshamas. Elio had 4.
So that's why Pinchas is I guess kolapogim, halacha is not something you can learn. It has to be a Yerusha of neshama. It's not shayach for Moshe Rabbeinu Aaron to come up with it, because they didn't have the neshama of Nadav Avihu. That's Zohar.
Very nice, Alex. Thank you.
I knew I'll put a smile on your face.
That's correct.
You're a
Very
big
good.
Zohar.
That's
Torah Or is big into Zohars.
correct. Okay, everyone, have a wonderful
Good
Shabbos.
Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
Have a good
Good
Shabbos.
Shabbos. Good
Shabbos,
Shabbos.
Rabbi. Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos, please.